A horse on the brink of death. A young girl with unshakable determination. Rusty was just another name on a list. Another horse deemed too far gone to save. But when Emma Parker stepped into his life, what unfolded was nothing short of a miracle. Together, they would defy all odds, turning despair into triumph. Their story would take an unexpected turn that no one could have foreseen. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more inspiring stories like this one. Get ready for a tale of courage, love, and transformation that will leave you speechless. The sun was beginning to set over Willow Creek, casting a golden glow across the pastures and painting the weathered boards of the old auction barn in streaks of amber and shadow. Inside, the air was thick with the mingling scents of hay, dust, and despair. Horses shifted nervously in their pens, their eyes scanning for any sign of hope. Among them stood Rusty, a chestnut stallion whose faded coat and drooping posture told a story of neglect and suffering. Once a proud horse, Rusty had fallen victim to years of hard labor and subsequent abandonment. Now his gaunt frame, with ribs starkly visible beneath his patchy fur, stood as a testament to his years of mistreatment. He was plagued by sickness, nearly crippled, and whispers among the workers echoed his fate. "This one's done for," muttered a man, glancing at Rusty's lifeless eyes. "Nobody's going to want him." On the other side of town, 16-year-old Emma Parker sat cross-legged on her bed, scrolling through her phone. The blue light illuminated her determined face, framed by wavy brown hair often tucked beneath her riding helmet. Emma had grown up around horses on her family's modest farm, a sanctuary for animals in need. Though they didn't have much, the Parkers made up for it with compassion. Still, the farm was at capacity, and her parents had made it clear, no more animals. Emma wasn't looking for a new horse that evening, but then she saw the post. "Final chance. Sickly stallion needs immediate rescue." The photo was heartbreaking. Rusty stood in his pen, his head hanging so low it seemed he might collapse. Despite his condition, something about his posture caught Emma's eye, a faint spark of dignity. "No," her mom said firmly when Emma brought up the idea. "We don't have the time or money to take on another rescue, especially one that might not make it." But Emma couldn't get Rusty out of her mind. That night, she dreamed of his sad eyes, imagining what it would be like to see them filled with life again. The next morning, against her parents' wishes, Emma climbed into her old truck with her savings in her pocket and hope in her heart. She drove to the auction barn, where Rusty's condition was even more devastating in person. His coat was matted with sores, his mane tangled with burrs. Yet, when their eyes met, a flicker of something unexplainable passed between them. "How much for him?" she asked, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. The auctioneer raised an eyebrow. "Him? You're serious, kid? This horse is a lost cause. You're better off spending your money elsewhere." "I didn't ask for advice," Emma replied, surprising herself with her boldness. "How much?" The man shrugged. $50, but don't say I didn't warn you." Emma handed over the money. Within the hour, Rusty was loaded into her family's old horse trailer. As she drove home, the setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and purple. Emma glanced in the rearview mirror at Rusty, who stood quietly in the trailer. "You're safe now," she whispered. "We're going to figure this out together." When she pulled into the driveway, her parents were waiting. Her dad's face was a mix of disbelief and exasperation. "Emma, what did you do?" he asked, looking at the frail horse. "I couldn't leave him there," Emma said softly. "He deserves a chance." Her mom sighed. "Emma, he's in worse shape than I imagined. This isn't just about love. He needs medical care we can't afford." But Emma was undeterred. She knew it would take everything they had and more. But something inside her refused to let go of the belief that Rusty could be saved. Rusty's arrival at the Parker family farm was met with cautious hope and overwhelming concern. His frail body trembled as Emma guided him from the trailer into the barn. Though the soft nickers of the other horses welcomed him, Rusty responded with only a hesitant glance at his new surroundings. Emma wasted no time. Armed with an old veterinary guide, a few ointments, and sheer determination, she began tending to Rusty's wounds. His back was riddled with sores, his hooves cracked and overgrown, and his coat marred with bald patches. Each gentle touch reassured him, though he flinched at first, a painful reminder of his rough past. The first night was grueling. Rusty refused to eat the grain Emma had prepared, his body too weak and his trust in humans too fragile. She stayed by his stall for hours, softly humming a tune her grandmother used to sing. "You're safe now," she whispered, though her own voice carried the weight of uncertainty. By the third day, cracks in Emma's plan began to show. The local veterinarian confirmed her worst fears. Rusty was severely malnourished, and his immune system was compromised. Treatment would require costly supplements, regular checkups, and significant time. "Emma, we can't do this alone," her mom said gently. But Emma refused to give up. She began selling handmade horse tack online and took on extra chores at a neighboring farm to earn money. Every penny went toward Rusty's care. Neighbors began to notice her dedication, donating supplies and offering help. Small victories emerged. Rusty, who had refused food, started nibbling hay. His eyes, once dulled by pain, began to carry a faint glimmer of curiosity. Emma introduced slow walks around the paddock to help him regain strength, and though his steps were hesitant, progress was undeniable. The turning point came on a stormy evening. Thunder rolled through the valley, and rain fell in relentless sheets. Fearing the storm might frighten Rusty, Emma rushed to the barn. She found him trembling in the corner of his stall, his body pressed tightly against the wooden walls. Without hesitation, she stepped inside and sat cross-legged in the straw beside him. "It's okay," she murmured. "I'm here." For hours, Emma stayed by Rusty's side, her presence a calming force against the chaos outside. By the time the storm passed, Rusty had stopped shaking. He lowered his head into Emma's lap, a small but monumental gesture of trust. Tears streamed down her face as she stroked his mane. "We're going to get through this," she said, her voice filled with conviction. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Emma and Rusty deepened, defying all odds. Together, they turned despair into triumph, proving that love and determination could truly work miracles. Rusty's progress, though slow, was undeniable. His coat began to regain its shine, and one morning, he even managed a small trot in the paddock, much to Emma's delight. However, the road ahead was still steep, and the question lingered in everyone's mind. Would Rusty ever fully recover? Rusty's journey to recovery was far from straightforward. Every small victory seemed to come with its share of setbacks. While his coat grew shinier and his appetite improved, his legs remained weak and his movements were hesitant. Yet Emma, ever patient, continued to work with him daily, adjusting his routine to balance progress with rest. One crisp morning, Emma decided to try something new. She brought out a soft lunge line and led Rusty to the paddock. It was the first time she'd asked him to do anything beyond walking, and she wasn't sure how he would respond. "Just a little circle," she said softly, holding the line and encouraging him forward. Rusty hesitated, his ears flicking back and forth as if considering her request. Then, with a deep breath, he took a tentative step, followed by another. Soon, he was walking in a slow, uneven circle around her. Emma couldn't contain her excitement. "Good boy, Rusty," she exclaimed, her voice bright with encouragement. For a moment, it felt like they were unstoppable. But progress wasn't always steady. A few days later, Rusty stumbled during one of their sessions, nearly falling to his knees. Emma rushed to his side, her heart pounding. "It's okay," she said, her voice trembling. "We'll take it slow." That night, as she brushed his coat and checked his legs, doubt crept into her mind. Was she pushing him too hard? Would he ever fully recover? The challenges didn't end with Rusty's physical condition. Emma also faced growing skepticism from those around her. At the feed store, she overheard whispers from other customers. "That horse is a lost cause," one man said, shaking his head. "She's wasting her time." Emma clenched her fist but stayed silent. Instead, she focused her energy on proving them wrong. Every day after school, she returned to the barn, determined to help Rusty improve. She read every article she could find on equine rehabilitation, sought advice from online communities, and kept meticulous notes on his progress. One day, while scrolling through a forum, Emma came across a story about a rescued horse that had gone on to compete in dressage competitions. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous. Inspired, Emma began to wonder if Rusty might one day achieve something extraordinary too. "What if we could show everyone what you're capable of?" she whispered to him, her eyes shining with determination. As the weeks passed, Rusty's trust in Emma deepened. He began greeting her with soft nickers, his eyes lighting up whenever she approached his stall. She introduced him to ground poles, starting with just one and gradually increasing the challenge. His steps became more confident, his movements more fluid. Emma felt a swell of pride every time he succeeded. But just as things seemed to be looking up, another challenge emerged. Rusty's old injuries began to flare up, leaving him limping for days. The veterinarian suggested cutting back on his training, a recommendation Emma reluctantly followed. "It's a marathon, not a sprint," her dad reminded her one evening as they stood in the barn. "He's come so far already. Don't forget that." Emma nodded, though her frustration was evident. She wanted so badly for Rusty to thrive, to prove everyone wrong. But she also knew her dad was right. Progress would take time, and patience was as important as effort. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma sat on the fence of the paddock, watching Rusty graze. The golden light cast a warm glow over his now shiny coat. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to feel a sense of calm. "We'll get there," she said softly, as if reassuring herself as much as him. Little did Emma know, the next step in their journey would be the most challenging and the most transformative yet. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of autumn leaves. Emma stood outside Rusty's stall, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared for their session. The stakes felt higher now. Rusty's recovery had reached a plateau, and doubts began to cloud her mind. The excitement of his initial progress was giving way to the realization of how far they still had to go. "Ready, buddy?" she asked, slipping a halter over Rusty's head. He responded with a soft nicker, nudging her arm as if to reassure her. Emma smiled despite her nerves. "Let's show them what we can do." Today's goal was ambitious, a full trot over ground poles. Emma had set them up in the paddock the night before, carefully measuring the distances to ensure they were just right. She had spent hours reading about the benefits of pole work for strengthening a horse's legs and building confidence, but this was the first time she would ask Rusty to tackle such a challenge. As they reached the paddock, Emma could feel the tension in Rusty's body. His ears flicked back and forth, his eyes scanning the unfamiliar setup. "It's okay," Emma said, her voice calm and steady. "We'll take it slow." The first few attempts were hesitant. Rusty approached the poles cautiously, his steps deliberate and uncertain. Emma kept her voice encouraging, offering praise for every small effort. But as the session went on, Rusty's frustration became evident. He started tossing his head, his movements growing erratic. When Emma gently urged him forward again, he stopped abruptly, refusing to move. "Come on, Rusty," Emma pleaded, her heart sinking. She gave him a moment to calm down before trying again, but Rusty reared slightly, pulling against the lunge line. Emma's chest tightened. She had never seen him this upset before. Finally, she dropped the line and approached him slowly. "I'm sorry," she whispered, resting her forehead against his. "I pushed too hard." That evening, Emma sat on the barn floor, her knees drawn to her chest. Rusty munched on hay in his stall, seemingly unfazed by the day's events. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she had failed him. What if they were right? She muttered to herself. What if I'm just wasting my time? Her dad found her there an hour later, still staring blankly at the barn wall. Tough day? He asked, sitting down beside her. Emma nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I don't know if I can do this. Maybe he's not meant to get better. Maybe I'm just being selfish, trying to save him. Her dad put a comforting hand on her shoulder. Emma, you've done more for that horse than anyone else ever would have. It's okay to have doubts, but giving up now, that's not who you are. His words resonated, though the weight of the day still lingered. That night, Emma made a decision. She wouldn't give up, but she would change her approach. Instead of focusing on what Rusty couldn't do, she would celebrate what he could. They would take things one step at a time, no matter how long it took. The next morning, Emma brought Rusty to the paddock again, but this time there were no poles. Instead, she let him roam freely, watching as he explored the space at his own pace. After a while, he started to trot on his own, his movements more fluid than Emma had seen in weeks. She smiled, a new sense of hope filling her chest. We'll do this your way, she said softly. As the days turned into weeks, Emma stuck to her new plan. She focused on rebuilding Rusty's confidence, rewarding every small victory with gentle praise and extra treats. Slowly but surely, his spirit began to return. He even started nuzzling her pockets, searching for the treats he knew were there. Rusty had developed a fondness for searching Emma's pockets for the apple slices he had grown to love. Just as Emma began to feel they were finally on solid ground, an unexpected challenge threatened to derail everything. One morning, a letter arrived in the mail, sending shockwaves through the Parker household. The letter, from the local animal control office, stated they had received a complaint about Rusty's condition. Despite all of Emma's efforts, someone had reported Rusty as a neglected animal, claiming he was being kept in poor health. Emma's mom read the letter aloud, her voice tight with worry. They're sending an inspector next week. The news hit Emma like a punch to the stomach. But he's getting better, she exclaimed, her voice cracking. They don't understand what we've been through. Her dad placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We'll figure this out, Emma. Just keep doing what you're doing. The truth will speak for itself. As the inspection day approached, Emma worked harder than ever to prepare. She cleaned the barn until it gleamed, double-checked Rusty's medical records, and ensured he was in the best possible condition. Still, the fear of losing him hung over her like a storm cloud. Little did she know, the inspection would bring not only judgment, but also an unexpected twist that would change everything. The inspection day arrived with a sharp chill in the air. Emma woke early, her stomach in knots. She had barely slept the night before, replaying every possible scenario in her mind. The barn was spotless. Rusty's coat gleamed with a soft sheen, and she had all his medical records and progress notes neatly arranged on the kitchen table. Yet, doubt gnawed at her. At precisely 10 a.m., a white truck with the local animal control logo pulled into the Parkers' gravel driveway. Emma and her parents stepped outside to greet the inspector, a tall woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Let's see the horse, the woman said, clipboard in hand. She introduced herself as Miss Carter and wasted no time getting to the point. Emma led Miss Carter to the barn, her heart pounding with every step. Rusty stood in his stall, calmly munching on a pile of hay. His ears pricked up when he saw Emma, and he nickered softly, a small sign of the bond they had built. But Emma wasn't sure if Miss Carter would see it the same way. The inspector began her evaluation, checking Rusty's condition with practiced efficiency. She examined his coat, hooves, and overall weight, jotting notes onto her clipboard. Emma held her breath, waiting for any comment that might reveal what Miss Carter was thinking. Finally, Miss Carter turned to Emma. How long have you had him? She asked, her tone neutral. About 4 months, Emma replied. He was in terrible shape when I got him. I've been working with him every day to help him recover. Miss Carter nodded, glancing around the barn. And who's funding his care? Emma hesitated before answering. I've been selling things online and doing extra work around the neighborhood. My parents help when they can, but most of it comes from me. For the first time, a flicker of something softened Miss Carter's expression, though she quickly masked it. That's commendable, she said, her tone still professional. The inspection continued in silence until Miss Carter finally closed her clipboard. I'll need to file my report, she said, her voice unreadable. You'll hear from us in a few days. As she walked back to her truck, Emma couldn't help but call out, Do you think he'll be okay? Miss Carter paused, then turned back with a small smile. He's lucky to have you. The next few days were excruciating. Every time the phone rang or the mailbox creaked open, Emma's heart jumped. She tried to stay busy, continuing Rusty's gentle exercises and spending extra time just being near him. But the fear of losing him loomed over her like a dark cloud. Finally, the letter arrived. Emma tore it open with shaking hands, her parents standing close by. Her eyes scanned the page, and then she gasped. They're not taking him, she exclaimed, her voice breaking. They said his condition is improving and that he's clearly well cared for. Relief washed over the entire family. But at the bottom of the letter, something else caught Emma's eye. A handwritten note from Miss Carter. Your dedication is inspiring. I've included a contact for a local equestrian trainer who specializes in rehabilitation. They might be able to help you and Rusty take the next step. Emma stared at the note, her mind racing. A trainer? She had never considered working with a professional before, but the idea filled her with a new sense of possibility. That evening, she called the number and set up a meeting for the following week. When the day arrived, Emma and Rusty met the trainer, a kind but firm woman named Sarah Hayes, at her facility just outside of town. Sarah watched Rusty carefully as he moved around the arena, her sharp eyes catching every subtle detail. He's got potential, Sarah said finally, turning to Emma. It's going to take time, but I think he could do more than just recover. He could thrive. Emma's heart soared. For the first time, someone with expertise saw what she had seen all along. Rusty wasn't just a broken horse. He was a survivor. Together, they could achieve something extraordinary. But as Emma and Rusty embarked on this new chapter of their journey, they had no idea that the challenges ahead would test their bond and courage like never before. Under Sarah's guidance, Rusty began a structured training program designed to rebuild his strength and confidence. The sessions were challenging but carefully paced, with Sarah emphasizing the importance of patience and trust. He's not just recovering physically, Sarah explained one afternoon. He's relearning how to trust himself. And the first few weeks were a roller coaster. Rusty excelled in some areas, like ground poles and basic agility exercises, but struggled with others. One session, meant to reintroduce him to small jumps, ended in frustration. Rusty balked at the first hurdle, planting his hooves firmly in the dirt. Emma felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment as Sarah watched from the sidelines. It's okay, Sarah said calmly, walking over. He's telling you he's not ready yet. Let's take a step back and build from where he's comfortable. Emma nodded, swallowing her pride. She knew this wasn't about proving anything. It was about Rusty's journey, one step at a time. Together, they were finding their way forward one step at a time. It was never about proving anyone wrong. It was about helping Rusty become the horse Emma believed he could be. With Sarah's guidance, they returned to simpler exercises, gradually increasing the difficulty as Rusty's confidence grew. As the weeks turned into months, Rusty began to transform. His coat gleamed under the autumn sun, his muscles grew stronger, and his movements became more fluid. But the most remarkable change was in his spirit. The once defeated stallion now carried himself with a quiet determination that mirrored Emma's own resolve. One crisp morning, after a particularly successful session, Sarah pulled Emma aside. I've been thinking, Sarah began. There's a small local competition coming up in a few weeks. It's low pressure, just a chance for people to showcase their progress. I think Rusty could do well in the introductory category. Emma's eyes widened. A competition? I don't know. Do you really think he's ready? I do, Sarah said with a smile. And I think you're ready too. But it's your decision. Emma spent the next few days agonizing over the idea. She knew Rusty had come a long way, but the thought of putting him in front of a crowd made her nervous. What if he froze? What if people judged them? But then she remembered the countless hours they had spent together, the challenges they had overcome, and the bond they had built. This wasn't about winning. It was about showing the world what they were capable of. With a deep breath, Emma made her decision. We'll do it, she told Sarah. For Rusty and Emma, the weeks leading up to the competition were some of the most intense of their lives. They practiced every day, fine-tuning their movements and building their confidence. Sarah worked closely with them, offering guidance and encouragement. Emma's parents pitched in too, helping with Rusty's grooming and cheering them on during their practice runs. On the morning of the competition, Emma woke before dawn, her heart pounding with anticipation. She carefully braided Rusty's mane, polished his tack, and loaded him into the trailer. As they drove to the arena, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nerves. No matter what happens, she whispered to Rusty, you're already a champion to me. The competition was held at a small outdoor arena nestled in the hills. The atmosphere was festive, with riders and horses of all ages milling about. Emma felt a pang of insecurity as she noticed the sleek, well-trained horses and their confident riders. But when she looked at Rusty, standing tall and calm by her side, her doubts melted away. They belonged here. When their turn came, Emma led Rusty into the arena, her heart pounding. The announcer's voice echoed through the air, introducing them to the small crowd. Emma Parker and Rusty, participating in the introductory agility round. Emma took a deep breath and guided Rusty toward the first obstacle, a simple line of ground poles. He stepped over them with ease, his movements smooth and confident. Next came a small jump, barely more than a foot high. Emma held her breath as Rusty approached. His ears pricked forward, and with a graceful leap, he cleared it effortlessly. The crowd erupted into applause, but Emma barely heard them. All she could see was Rusty, his eyes bright and his stride confident. They completed the course without a single fault, finishing with a final trot around the arena. As they exited, Emma felt tears streaming down her face. Rusty had done it, not just for her, but for himself. The day ended with an unexpected surprise. Rusty and Emma placed first in their category. But for Emma, the real victory was seeing Rusty shine. As they stood together for a photo, Emma whispered in his ear, "This is just the beginning." Little did they know, their journey wasn't over yet. A new challenge loomed on the horizon, one that would test their bond and courage like never before. The days following the competition were filled with a quiet sense of accomplishment. Rusty had transformed in ways no one had believed possible, and Emma felt like they had climbed a mountain together. But even as the ribbons and congratulations poured in, Emma knew their journey was far from over. Word of Rusty's transformation began to spread. Photos from the competition made their way onto social media, and soon Emma started receiving messages from people inspired by their story. Among the many kind words, one message stood out. It came from a man named Michael Rivers, a prominent equestrian coach who specialized in rehabilitating rescue horses for competitive events. "I've heard about Rusty," the message read. "What you've done is remarkable. If you're interested, I'd like to invite you both to my training facility. I think Rusty has the potential to go even further." Emma stared at the message in disbelief. Michael Rivers was a household name in the equestrian world, and the idea of working with him felt like a dream. But it also felt intimidating. Was Rusty really ready for something so big? Was she? After much thought and encouragement from her family, Emma decided to take the leap. A week later, she and Rusty arrived at Michael's sprawling facility, where they were greeted by a team of trainers in a sea of well-bred, high-performance horses. Rusty looked out of place among them, his humble origins evident in his slightly uneven gait and the scars that still marked his coat. But Michael saw something different. "This horse has heart," he said after watching Rusty move. Rusty trotted around the arena with a grace that couldn't be taught. It was rare, almost innate. The next few months were a whirlwind of training and growth. Rusty was introduced to more advanced techniques, and Emma found herself learning just as much as he did. Their bond deepened as they tackled new challenges together. Every stumble was met with determination, and every small success was celebrated with a handful of Rusty's favorite apple slices. As their training progressed, Michael suggested they aim for a regional competition, a stepping stone to even larger events. Emma hesitated at first, worried about pushing Rusty too far, but Michael's confidence in them was unwavering. "You've already proven everyone wrong," he said. "Now it's time to show them what's possible." The regional competition was held at a grand arena with hundreds of spectators filling the stands. Emma and Rusty's category included some of the best riders and horses in the region, and the pressure was palpable. As they entered the arena, Emma felt the weight of every moment that had led them to this point. The course was daunting, with higher jumps and tighter turns than anything they had faced before. Emma took a deep breath and patted Rusty's neck. "We've got this," she whispered. The first jump approached quickly, and Rusty cleared it with grace. The crowd let out a collective gasp of approval as he landed smoothly. They moved through the course with precision, each jump more challenging than the last. By the time they reached the final obstacle, the crowd was on the edge of their seats. Rusty hesitated for a brief moment, but Emma's steady hand and calm voice urged him forward. With one last leap, they cleared the final jump and crossed the finish line. The arena erupted into applause, but Emma barely heard it. She leaned forward, wrapping her arms around Rusty's neck. "You did it," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We did it." To their astonishment, Emma and Rusty placed third, a monumental achievement in such a competitive field. But for Emma, the placement wasn't what mattered. The real victory was Rusty's transformation, from a neglected, broken horse to a champion with a heart of gold. After the competition, a local reporter approached Emma for an interview. "What's next for you and Rusty?" the reporter asked, holding out a microphone. Emma glanced at Rusty, who stood tall and proud beside her. "We'll keep moving forward," she said with a smile. "Rusty taught me that anything is possible when you don't give up. I want to keep showing people what heart and determination can do." Rusty's story went on to inspire countless others, becoming a symbol of resilience and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. For Emma, it was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope could light the way. As they walked back to the trailer that evening, Emma looked out at the horizon, her heart full of gratitude. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. Rusty, as if understanding every word, nickered in agreement. Rusty's transformation wasn't just a story about a horse. It was a story about courage, love, and the power of second chances. From the brink of being forgotten to becoming a champion, Rusty showed the world that no matter how dire the circumstances, there's always hope for a brighter future. If this story touched your heart, let it remind you that resilience and compassion can overcome any obstacle. Let Rusty's journey inspire you to face your own challenges with courage and determination. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with someone who loves inspiring stories. Together, we can spread messages of hope and showcase the incredible power of the bond between humans and animals. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, take care and never stop believing in the extraordinary.